Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kent Lissick, and it's my pleasure to share with you a short presentation on our Bracelets for Building project. I'd like to thank Reverend Yope for inviting us today. He's been an inspiration for our team as we've been engaged in this journey to help the less fortunate in Thailand and Cambodia. The plan for today is to take you on a bit of a world tour, a feast for the eyes, ears, and finally for your mouths. Should be a bit of an audio-visual smorgasbord. And to that end, I must alert you that Roxy, Lorna, Etta, and a number of the ladies from the church have prepared a delicious Cambodian-inspired lunch that will follow this presentation. And realizing that you just sat through a full service and are probably ready for some nourishment, I'll try to keep this as brief as possible. If you have questions during the presentation, we'll leave a bit of time at the end, or if everybody's getting hungry, we can just talk over lunch. So the idea for Bracelets for Buildings, or B4B, started several years ago with conversations between two friends about how to make a positive difference in the world. My brother-in-law, Lee Chandler, and I had both participated in numerous events over the years, from soup kitchens, food drives, canvassing for charities, and volunteering at the Children's Hospital. We each discovered that when we came from a place of kindness, with an open heart, and no judgment attached to any specific outcome, it can shift another person from despair to a sense of hope. Each conversation built on the previous and continued to move us closer to where we are today, contributing to the less fortunate and the poor in Cambodia and Thailand. But what exactly is B4B? Well, we decided to set up a social enterprise to help the less fortunate in Cambodia and Thailand. And we do this by raising funds and awareness by selling bracelets, and then we build homes and greenhouses, giving opportunities for those folks to be self-sufficient. And this is a key point for our project, because we don't believe that anyone wants to be dependent on charity and aid. We're working hard to help people, but we strive to build sustainable projects that will last long after we're gone. So let's begin with a bit of global visual globetrotting, and it may help to give us a wider perspective to understand where we fit in the world. First, with the help of Google Earth, we'll tap into some tracking satellites and see where we currently sit. We'll zoom into Calgary, and then we'll move down to get a closer look at Lakeview United Church. Now zooming in just a little bit closer, I think you might even see Yope's car in the parking lot, because I'm pretty sure that he rarely goes home. Okay, we'll slide back out to Canada, and then across the pond to Southeast Asia. And as many of you know, this takes a mere 21 hours by airplane, usually through either Hong Kong, Tokyo, or Bangkok. Then we'll move on and to the Maldives, a chain of islands just south of India. And it was here in 2013 that Lee and I started to articulate our vision for Bracelets for Buildings. We'd been scuba diving in the Maldives in the memory of our good friend Art Steinberg. Art was a teacher, owned a private school in Mississauga. He was an avid diver and a mentor to many people, including Lee and myself. In addition, he had undertaken a great deal of philanthropic and charitable work in Thailand and Cambodia. Now sadly, Art died prematurely at the age of 64 in 2011, and while that saddened us, it also gave us an opportunity. And we'll zoom back to Cambodia. After our trip, we had a rendezvous with Roxy and with Lee's wife Pats, and we planned a tour to see Angkor Wat and the exotic sights of Cambodia. It's truly an amazing place to visit, and I encourage you to put it on your bucket list as one of the must-see places in the world. Now, during this trip, we traveled east of Siem Reap to an area where Art had built a school and sanitation facilities for a local monastery. He invested a considerable amount of time and money to help the local people. Lee and I decided that we would try to continue Art's legacy and seek out projects to help people in Southeast Asia. So who's involved with B4B? Well, first of all, I'd like to introduce you to Thary Style, the bracelet man. Thary was born in 1983. He was one of 8 children and the only sibling born with a physical disability. He was born without any legs and has congenital hand anomalies. And this presents a very difficult challenge in a developing country without any kind of government or social assistance infrastructure. Cambodia is a country where the average income per family is just over $1 a day. In his early 20s, Thary lost his parents when they died prematurely due to complications from HIV and AIDS. And after high school, he moved in with one of his sisters and became the caregiver to her children. At the age of 26, he made the decision to become an entrepreneur and start his bracelet business. And today, he's supporting himself and his family members while living on his own. He's an individual who inspires us to do more and to be more. And he's a living example of what can happen when you commit to living a life of possibilities. We've partnered with Thary to use his bracelets as a source of inspiration and awareness for all who have heard his story and want to help. And after sharing his story, we offer one of his bracelets in return for a contribution to our project. All of the funds received are directed towards projects for building of new homes and greenhouses for the poorest of the poor in Cambodia and Thailand. Now, personally, I find that the bracelet reminds me daily about how lucky I am to be born in Canada. I really won the lottery. And when I look down at it in the shower in the morning, I realize that there are so many more people in Cambodia that could really use our help. I'll show you a short video of Thary.
So this is our friend Thary weaving one of the bracelets actually that are going to Kent over in Canada. So we're just kind of watching. You can see how he hooks it down on his foot, pulls it back to his waist, and then ties.
Now, in 2014, we undertook months of research to understand where our effort might be most effective, and we decided to pursue projects in 2 places, in Thailand and in Cambodia, and we spent a month in country in February of 2015. First project was at Bananarak Children's Home in Sanglaburi, Thailand, and it was here that we built initially a greenhouse and upgraded an irrigation system. Bananarak means House of Joy, and it's the home to 150 children and is located right on the Myanmar or the Burma border. And here's a shot of the second greenhouse that we built back in November of 2015. This was designed by Lee, and it was made of PVC pipe and UV resistant poly. It's been a learning process along the way as we look for better ways to help. The next project was a house renovation at Sai Prai, just east of Siem Reap, not far from where Art had started his projects in Cambodia. The project was for a blind woman by the name of Set and her 80-year-old mother, and we replaced the siding, roof, and floorboards of their house. It was during this first project at Sai Prai that we became aware of a young widow, a mother of 3 children, who was in dire straits. Her name is Tum, and at the time we understood that her husband had drowned and she was left to care for her 3 children. Siha, who's 9, Sretai, who's 6, and Somnang, who's now 2. They were living in a very dilapidated house that we feared would not last through the upcoming rainy season. And as a stopgap measure, we hired some of the local workers to fix up Tom's house until we could figure out another solution. We also provided them with some food, some clothing to try and get them through a tough time. When we got back to the Western world, Lee to Singapore and myself back to Calgary, we looked at options to build a new house for Tom and her family. Lee's been a builder for over 30 years, and he was convinced that we could build cost-effective housing for Tom and others. One of the biggest challenges was sourcing wood, as it was very expensive, tended towards mahogany, which was very hard to cut and to nail. We would literally bend the nails when we were trying to put the new siding on. During our research, we became aware of a housing initiative by the Cambodian Children's Fund, the CCF. They had designed a Khmer-style house that was made of galvanized steel, prefabricated in Phnom Penh, then welded together and finished in the field. We contacted CCF and over the course of several months convinced them to work with us to build 2 houses at Sai Prai. One was for Tom and her kids, and the other for her sister Teo and her husband Sohai. We had learned that Teo and Sohai had recently lost their house to a fire and now were in debt from paying the local firemen to extinguish the flames. The first step for this project was clearing the land for their houses. And here's a short video that shows that process.
First load, 11:50, promised for 8 a.m. We got it back as far as we can. One.
The Chev got stuck and the Ford got stuck, got the Chev unstuck when the Dodge showed up. But the Dodge got stuck in the tractor rut, which eventually pulled out the Ford with some difficulty. A more rain than we'd seen for 1,000 years caused financial joys and biblical fears. It caused some smiles, it caused some tears, but more to the point of our story. For the first time in the collective memory, that old brown prairie that had been so dry for so long was very muddy, boggy, sticky. We'd pull one truck out and get another stuck in, and motors that roar and tires that spin would sink right down to the diff, and we'd all take turns and do it again until no one could move. Call one more friend, come on out here, we need you. Bring your truck. The Chev got stuck and the Ford got stuck, got the Chev unstuck when the Dodge showed up. But the Dodge got stuck in the tractor rut, which eventually pulled out the Ford and the Dodge. Equal opportunity. Well, got me stuck in the mud so I couldn't rehearse, and Chavez too has missed his work. Richie, he now fears the worst. He stood up his ex-wife, she called him a jerk. Of course, Holtman didn't have nothing better to do except ranch. The Chev got stuck and the Ford got stuck, got the Chev unstuck when the Dodge showed up. But the Dodge got stuck in the tractor rut, which eventually pulled out the Ford. Well, it was truck after truck, we all got stuck, except the big old 4x100 truck. We all thought, Lord, are we in luck? But he wouldn't come anywhere near us. Mighty neighborly, mighty neighborly. We used a lot of our backs and a little of our brains. It jacked up the jacks and snugged up the chains. We all did our very best to refrain from shoveling. We put what timber we had underneath the wheels, and we was all out of sand, but managed to steal 2 sacks of the best modern canola seed you ever did see. That ought to give us some traction. The Chev got stuck and the Ford got stuck, and the Chev unstuck when the Dodge showed up. But the Dodge got stuck in the tractor rut, which eventually pulled out the Ford. Epilogue. We spilled genetically modified canola seed that was genetically modified for control of the weeds and for big old yields of margarine oil, and raised hell all over that native prairie soil. Agriculture Canada is definitely going to be looking for us.
We had quite a chuckle at the end of this because it wasn't finished 5 minutes and the kids were all over it. Brand new playground. Just like kids anywhere. It's worth noting that it took about 35 loads to raise the level of the land by 15 inches, and this came at a cost of about 330 Canadian dollars. It's amazing how little it takes to have a big impact in this part of the world. A special thanks to Cor Blund for that great song to accompany this video. Now in the next video, I'll give you a quick overview of the actual assembly of the 2 houses. It took an 8-man crew from CCF a total of 2.5 days. They've now done over 400 houses and have become a very efficient team. It was pretty impressive to watch these guys. Take a look.
Day 1 of the build. Quarter to 3, 12 o'clock, close enough. At least they made it.
Whew, it's you all out of breath. I don't think Roxy's serving frog at lunch today, but we'll see. The last day that we were there, the sun went down a little early, and as we were driving home, the bullfrogs were jumping in front of the car, and the next day, that's what they served for lunch. Delicious, actually. For the engineers in the crowd, the total cost of this housing project was about 7,600 Canadian, about 5,700 US at the time. That was about just under 4,000 per house, and this included site preparation, outhouse, cisterns for rainwater, solar panels, and LED lighting. We funded most of this project out of our own pockets, with the exception of a generous contribution from a Calgary family who contributed enough to pay for one half of one house, and we were very grateful for that help. This next panel gives you a taste of the final Sunday that followed to bless and celebrate the houses that were built. And the kids, as usual, were quite a joy. And you can't imagine the joy we received when we handed over the keys of the houses to Tom and to Teo. The look on their faces when they realized that for the first time that they have the ability to move into their houses, lock the door, and be safe. It was priceless. And Tom and her kids were pretty excited to move into their new home. This is a shot of the celebration where the monks blessed the houses. And here's a shot of the curry that was prepared by the wife of the village chief and served up to about 300 of the village people during the celebration. It's probably a little spicier than you'll be eating in a few minutes. Well, I've enjoyed telling you a lot about the how and the where of our projects, but the message that I'd like to leave you with concerns the why. We're often asked, why Asia? Why Cambodia and Thailand? And especially when there's so many needy people here at home in Canada and the US, does charity not begin at home? And what about our Syrian refugees? This is very true, and there's much that can be done in Canada and the US, especially with the downturn of our economy and the challenges facing our Indigenous people. However, I believe that it's a personal choice where one commits their time and their energy, and I encourage each of you to give where you feel the strongest. For Lee and I, our good friend Art drew our attention to the people of Cambodia who have no social safety net or governments to help them. They are the poorest of the poor in the world, and we believe they need our help. Now, during the project at Cypri, we learned more about Tom and her story, and as it turns out, her husband had actually tried to kill her and was in the process of burying her up to her neck when the local villagers intervened and ran him off. Now, he subsequently drowned, and we're not sure the full story there, but Tom was 8 months pregnant with her young son at that time. And when he was born, she called him Som Nang, which in Khmer means lucky. Now, we don't directly choose who gets houses in our project. That's done in consultation with the local chief. But we believe that Tom is a very fitting recipient, and she deserves a break. Now, a few weeks ago, Joop gave a sermon that included a message of the gift of giving joy and hope. And for me, this is the biggest why that got me involved with Bracelets for Buildings. We received the gift of seeing despair turn into joy and hope. And I think it's pretty evident on her face. Now, during our trip to Cambodia in December, we became aware of another group of folks who need some help. And these are the handicapped or physically challenged people. And we learned that there are over 300 physically challenged people who have land but do not have the means to build a home. Two of these people that need help are Theda and her husband Davi. Theda endured polio as a child and enjoys the use of only one leg. However, she's not let it hold her back. She currently works 2 jobs, managing a local craft and art shop, and working at a local hotel. And in addition, she attends accounting and finance classes in the evening. She and her husband have purchased a lot and are now saving to build a home, but they may need a helping hand. We're looking for ways to help raise funds to build a house for Theda and for Davy and a number of other handicapped folks in Siem Reap. And we invite you to become part of that story. I'd like to thank you for your time and attention. Together, we can make a difference in the world. If any of this has resonated with you, I'd encourage you to join us in this project. We'll have bracelets available for sale during lunch, and if you have other ideas to share your expertise or to get involved directly, please come and see me over soup today. We'd love to have you on our team. Now, without further delay, Roxy and the ladies have lunch ready. We can get the aroma wafting our way about now. I invite you to join us in the kitchen and to talk more about our project. Thank you very much.